Sages teach us that Shavuot, which we're coming to the festival of Shavuot right now, is in fact the most important festival out of the three festivals. We have three festivals besides Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We have the Shalosh Regalim, the three legs or the three pilgrimages. They are Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. So we have Pesach, and then we have which is at the Nisan, which is the first Hebrew month, which I will explain in a minute. Not to be mistaken with the first month of the year. Biblically speaking, as far as the festival is concerned, the order of the months start from Nisan, not from Tishrei, which is when we celebrate the head of the year. Biblically speaking, the Torah calls Nisan, the festival where Pesach falls on, the first month. So, and the month of Tishrei is the seventh month. The Torah calls it the seventh month. You shall celebrate this and this on the seventh month. You shall celebrate Pesach on the first month. And in between them, lodged in between them, is Shavuot. And the sages compare this. For example, there's an interesting law that when a Torah scholar walks, or when someone of great prestige walks, he walks in the middle, and the greater disciple walks on his right, and the lesser disciple walks on his left. The sage or the eminent personage always walks in the middle. Similarly, Shavuot is in the middle of the two festivals, the festival of Pesach and the festival of Sukkot. The reason is because there's something very unique about the middle, which Kabbalistically speaking is connected to the highest level of what's called Keter, God's will or God's crown. I'm not going to get into the intricacies of it, but I do want to point out that Shavuot is considered a very major and a very holy festival than the other two. Let's see why. What do we commemorate? What do we celebrate on Shavuot? What happened on Shavuot? So Pesach, we know what happened. God took us out of Egypt. There was a redemption. The Jewish people became a nation, a unified nation under the banner of God. But that wasn't the all and be all of the nation. The essence of the Jewish nation is not the exodus of Egypt. It's the giving of the Torah. When God told Moshe Rabbeinu about the exodus, he told them that the bottom line, the end result, their truly being committed to you and believing in you, in Moshe Rabbeinu as their prophet, will be not at the Exodus, will be at the giving of the Torah. In other words, the completion of the Exodus, or the essence, the zenith, the top of the Exodus of going out of Egypt is not just emancipation, not just freedom, a bodily freedom, but a spiritual freedom. Once you have that spiritual freedom, even though we may be then subjected to other rules, subsequent generations, we will always be intrinsically free. We will always be God's people, God's nation. And this is the uniqueness of Shavuot. Another unique thing of Shavuot over Pesach and Sukkot. Pesach and Sukkot are associated with particular mitzvot, particular commandments. The festival of Pesach, we commemorate the liberation and the exodus of Egypt, and we eat matzah, we eat maror. When we had the temple, we ate the paschal lamb that expresses the liberation, the courage of the Jewish people, that they took the lamb that was the god of Egypt and they slaughtered it in the eyes of the Egyptians. It takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. So we commemorate that courage and we reenact and relive that courage by bringing up the paschal lamb, by eating the matzah, by eating the maror. So we have particular mitzvot that are associated with Pesach. We have particular mitzvot that are associated with Sukkot. In Sukkot, we commemorate that the Almighty's abiding protection during the sojourn in the wilderness, and that He protected us through His clouds of glory, and the fact that we journeyed through the wilderness, it was enough for us simply to have just our tents, and that was enough, and the Almighty supplied everything, all of our needs, which is a mode and a mechanism to instill within us absolute faith in God. Here you have a nation of between 3.5 to 6 million people, very vulnerable to the elements, no food, vulnerable to enemy attack, no supplies, in a desert where there's no water. There's a beating sun, of which anybody who knows a little bit can get to freezing temperatures below zero in the winter, and they're unprotected, unshielded. And He, the Almighty, protected them with clouds of glory. He gave them water to drink. He gave them food. And not only were they sustained, but they flourished as a nation, and they were able to study the Torah by the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Which the objective of Sukkot is to go out of our seeming protective environment that we created for ourselves, and to show how much we rely on Hashem. So we go out of our protection, we go out of our comfort zone, and we go to the Sukkah to show that we really, truly have faith only in God. Everything around us is really but a shell. True protection, true sustenance doesn't come from us, it comes from God. And we commemorate that through a mitzvah of sitting in the Sukkah, eating in the Sukkah, sleeping in the Sukkah, and the like. Everything that we do in the home, we do in the Sukkah. We also take the 4 species of lulav, etrog, excuse me, and the hadassim and the aravot, the myrtles and the willows, and we bind them together, indicating that every aspect of our human existence must be devoted to God. The etrog corresponds to the heart. The arava corresponds to the lips, because it's a long leaf, shape of a lips. The hadassim correspond to the eyes, what we see, what we speak, what we bring in, what we take out. The heart, the emotions, and the lulav, the backbone, the spine, which represents the backbone and really rules and governs all of our activities, all of our actions goes through the spine. Must be devoted and dedicated in unison in the service of God. It also represents different levels of Jews. Those who are uninitiated still, those who are not so involved, those who are less involved, more involved, etc. And we join them together, showing that God loves us all equally, and that we all have a place in God's world. We all have a place in this festival, which the festival itself unites us, because the Sukkah itself, like no other mitzvah, encompasses us, totally surrounds us and envelops us in the holiness of this mitzvah. There's not one mitzvah that you find that totally envelops you, which shows a certain level of unity with us and God. And to such a degree that no matter what level of Jew that we are, and to what involvement that we are still incorporated in this glory of God's mitzvah. What about the festival of Shavuot? What mitzvah do we have in the festival of Shavuot? What identifies the festival of Shavuot? We don't have a lulav, we don't have etrog, we don't eat anything that we're commanded to eat. We're not commanded to eat cheese or cheesecakes or milk. We're not commanded. It's a custom. We're not commanded to. Some people, by them, it's like the whole Judaism stands on that. But it's not a commandment. It's not like matzah. Matzah we're obligated to eat, and we're not permitted to eat hametz. On Shavuot, you can eat whatever you want, or you can decide to not eat whatever you want. If you don't want to eat cheesecakes, you don't have to eat cheesecakes. There's only one thing that identifies the festival of Shavuot. Torah study. Torah study. We're not talking about the sacrifices that is brought. And the temple, every festival has its own sacrifices. There is a particular festival sacrifice or offering that we bring on on Shavuot. What identifies Shavuot is the study of Torah. And this is the uniqueness of Shavuot more so than the other mitzvot or the other festivals. The other festivals are associated with God's commandments. This is, so to speak, godliness himself, where God gives you his Torah, his wisdom. In fact, the very first word of the Torah is Anochi. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God who has taken you out of Egypt. The word Anochi, the sages teach us, is an acronym for 4 words. Aleph, Anochi is spelled Aleph, Nun, Chaf, and Yud. Aleph, Nun, Chaf, and Yud spells Ana, Nafshi, Ketavit, Yehavit. Through the Torah that I have written and given over to you, I'm giving you my very essence, my very soul. So, different than the mitzvot, which are the commandments of God, which no doubt the commandments themselves unite us with God, but the unity that we gain through the study of the Torah is infinitely greater than that. You see, then the word mitzvah in Hebrew is associated with the word tzav or tzavta, to connect, to join. Every mitzvah that we do connects us to God. But it connects us to God because He is the commander, and He wished and He commanded that we do this particular mitzvah. But the Torah, that's godliness Himself. That's not just His will, it's godliness Himself. Ana nafshi ktavit yahavit. I'm giving you my very essence, my very core, my very being. And for this reason, Shavuot is the greater of the two festivals, because it's the essence and the source of all mitzvot. You want to know mitzvot? What are the commandments of God? How do we come close to God? How do we cleave to God? You got to go through the Torah. The Torah itself is a commandment. We're obligated to study Torah, to understand Torah as much as humanly possible. Because if there is any way and any mechanism by which a mortal being can connect to the immortal, it's through Torah. Why? Because that is a part of God Himself. And this is the uniqueness of Shavuot. If the uniqueness of Shavuot then is the unity between us and God, then we have a very important question to ask. There's an interesting Gemara in Masechet Shabbat that almost praises and lauds the following: that Oraita Tlitai Le'ama Tlitai Beyarach Tlitai. A threefold Torah given to a threefold nation, given at the third month. It prides itself, the Gemara prides itself with the number 3, that there is some special quality over here, that the Torah is a threefold Torah. What does it mean, a threefold Torah? Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. Even though only the 5 books of Moses were given at that time, but the Torah was destined to have the works of the prophets, because one of the 13 principles of our faith, which God already instilled in the Bible, in the Torah, is that God will communicate to humanity through prophets. And although the prophets never added any new commandments, but they did add communications from God, warnings of God, how to cleave to God, what to keep away from, admonishment from God, etc. So words of prophecy, words of encouragement, words of hope, words of faith. Although they weren't revealed then, but they were destined to be revealed to a 3-pronged or a threefold nation. What is that? Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. We have 3 dimensions to our nation, and each have a function. The Kohanim, the priests, have a function. The Leviim, they have a function. And the Israelim, the majority of the Jewish people, they have a function as well. So here we see, again, that we have a 3-pronged nation, and the Torah was given on the 3rd month. When is this 3rd month? So we said that the 1st month starts from when we began to be a nation. The first festival, the months are counted according to the festivals. What's the first festival? Pesach. Therefore the 1st month is Nisan. The 2nd month is Iyar. The 3rd month where the Torah was given is Sivan.
It's very hard to remember in Hebrew.
That's why the Torah gives it no names. It gives it number 1, number 2, number 3. The 1st month, the 2nd month. Very easy to remember that. Right? Very easy to remember. Pesach is the 1st month. That's it.
Towards the end.
So let's continue.
Hanukkah is this.
The obvious question that we ask is, what is the Gemara, what are the sages are so proud, laud and praise the fact that we are a 3-pronged nation and that the Torah is a 3-fold Torah given on the 3rd month. The essence of Torah is divinity. There's only one God. And this one God gave one Torah to one nation, which is the Jewish nation. So why does it make a division? The essence of godliness is absolute unity. There is nothing but God. There is only godliness. Correct? What does it say in the Torah? En od milvado. There is nothing but God Himself. What does it mean there's nothing but God Himself? What does that mean? Does that mean that there is a God and He created a world and the world is a distinct and separate entity, but God controls it and rules it? No, absolutely not. There is nothing outside of the realm of God. And I'm going to explain this a little bit right now. One of the most important prayers that a Jew prays is the declaration of the unity of God. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. What does it mean that the Lord is one? Does it mean that we only have one God and there are no two gods? Is that what it means? No. Because if it would mean that, then we would say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is singular. Singular. Yahid. In Hebrew, you would say it Yahid. There's only one God. Yeah, there is. It's true. But that's not what we're saying. We're not just saying that. We're saying that, but we're saying deeper than that. Excuse me. We're saying deeper than that. We're not just saying that there's only one singular God and there's no other gods and any other God is false God. We're saying deeper than that. What we're saying is the absolute unity of God in the world. How do you see this? Now this is very important. Have a look at the word Ehad. How do you spell the word Ehad? Aleph, Het, Dalet. Aleph represents the numerical value. Every letter in Hebrew has a numerical value. The numerical value of Aleph is 1. Aleph, Yahid. A singular God. It also stands for Alufo Shel Olam. Aleph is connected to the word Alufo Shel Olam, master of the world. There's only one master of the world. There's not two, there's not three, because if there is more than one God, it's the God of the sun, He's not a God of the moon. If there's a God of the moon, He's not a God of the sun. If there's a God of the wind, He's not a God of the sunshine or of the water, etc. Then they're not a God, because if you have any limitation or any description whatsoever, then by definition, you're not a God. God means all powerful, omnipresent, and omnipotent, which means to say that you are everything and you are all. There is nothing powerful but you. So that is Aleph. Het represents the 7 heavens and this earth. 8, numerical value of 8. There are 7 heavens, there are 7 levels of heavens, and Maimonides lists the names, Hakim, etc., Shamayim, and one earth. Altogether, in other words, if you were to say the whole world, it is encapsulated in the number 8, represented and symbolized by the number 8. 7 heavens and 1 earth. What about Dalet? Dalet is the numerical value of 4. Refers to north, south, east and west, and also the 4 dimensions by which is the makeup and the composition of everything in this world. And that is gas, liquid, energy, and what was the other one? Liquid? The energy, that's fire. Fire is energy. Liquid, mineral, earth. So earth, fire, water, and air. Gas, energy, mineral, and liquid. Everything in this world, in varying forms, is comprised of these 4 elements. The 4 elements, which means that what is the true unity of God is not when you say that there is a world that has, and that the God is a God of this world, and that there is only one God. What we are saying is that everything, all the myriad billions and billions of components of this world is all included and incorporated and totally nullified and is nothing without God. That's what it means when we say God is one and not singular. What we're saying is nothing can exist in this world without God. There is nothing else but God. It's not that he's a superpower and we have less power and God controls us. He's mightier than us. What we are saying is, true unity means to say that all the divisions of this world are all included in the oneness of God. There is nothing else but the oneness of God, and we should not make any mistake and error. Let me explain a little bit what does it mean that we are totally dependent upon God and there is nothing but God. The nature of something that has weight is to fall, right? If I wanted to suspend this, what must I do? I must continually, the energy that goes against its nature is to hold it up. The nature of this world is ex nihilo. The world was created something from nothing. The nature of nothing is to remain nothing. You cannot create something from nothing. You can only create something from something. You can take wood and make a chair, but you cannot create the wood. You can take liquid and make a drink out of it, a tea out of it, but you cannot create the water. We can change the shape and the substance of something, but we cannot create the substance. Therefore, by nature, the very existence of this world is miraculous. It defies logic. It's something from nothing. We have no relationship to that. We cannot perceive and understand that, because all we can relate to is changing the form and the structure of something. But not to create something from nothing. We have no understanding of that whatsoever. Even cloning, something. You need something. You need a hair. You need something. You need some molecule. You need. Only God created something from nothing. The Baal Shem Tov says, based upon a verse that we say in Tehillim, and we say this 12 times. We say this 12 times on Yom Kippur. Le'olam Hashem. You remember this? Le'olam Hashem devar chanitzav b'shamayim. When we open the Echal, when we open it for the Sefer Torah, we say, forever your words are suspended in the heavens. Now the reason why we say that is twofold. The most simplest explanation of that is that there are the heaven and the 7 heavens and the earth, that's 8. And remember we said that there are the 4 dimensions of this world, altogether is 12. We say this 12 times because we say, Le'olam Hashem dvar chanitzav, let your judgments, let your harsh decrees stay in the heavens. Let them not come down the 12 levels all the way down here. That's why we say 12 times. Let it stay up there, God. Suspend your judgment, your harsh decrees, if we are not worthy of a favorable outcome. Let it stay in the heavens, not come down below. But the Baal Shem Tov teaches us a totally different meaning of this. Le'olam Hashem dvarcha nitzav b'shamayim. Forever your words that you created the world with, when God said, let there be light, etc., the 10 utterances by which God created all the heavens and all the earth and all of the details and the billions of different species, are always suspended in the heavens. Just like my hand needs to be suspended in order to, my hand, the energy has to be behind this to suspend this, so too the energy by which God infused the world must be continual. If not, what would happen? It would return back to nothing. That's how much, to what a degree that we are totally dependent upon God, and that we are not a non-existence. Truly we are not existence because we are totally dependent upon God. Just like this is not independent, the fact that it is suspended is not independent from my arm, not for 1 second, not for 1 millisecond. If I let go for the tiniest of seconds, it drops and returns back to its previous state. So to the world. That's what it means, the unity of God. Not that there is only one God. There is a world, and God created the world, and He governs the world. It means that even now, today, every breath that we take is totally a divine gift, and we are totally dependent upon God. God just hides this fact and hides Himself in order to be able to afford us the greatest gift of all. And that is the gift of free choice. To feel that we can earn our stripes, so to speak. We can earn our way in God's world by doing it through free choice. Not through, if this was to reveal to us, we would be totally null and void before God. We would have no existence whatsoever. Even greater than the angels, that the angels have no independence whatsoever. Just like my arm is not independent. It doesn't act on its own. It doesn't go and move this way or that way. It moves this way and that way only because it's controlled and connected to my body and is controlled by my brain. And it happens in a split second. I don't think to move my hand, and half an hour later it cranks itself up and says, "Oh, I'm a bit tired now. I'll do it in a minute." Immediately. That's how, to what a degree, and even more, we are totally dependent and nullified before God. That's what it means, the unity of God. That's what it means, God is one. Not that there is one God, but it means that there's no other existence but God. Just like this cannot possibly be suspended for a millisecond without the energy infusing it with the ability to stand up, so too we cannot exist for 1 millisecond without the energy, without God's creative power for 1 second. That's what it means, God is one. If that is the case, and the unity of God is such a powerful concept for the Jewish people, that's why, by the way, the Jewish people are warned so many times against idol worship. You were revealed such an understanding and a depth of the unity of God. How can you even fathom of even finding even a mediation between you and God? The Egel, the golden calf, was not idol worship. They didn't fashion a god and said, now this is there is no God in the world, this is a God. They simply sought a mediation, because till now, a medium between them and God. Till now, Moshe Rabbeinu was the medium, and then when the prophet was no longer there, and they thought that he died because in their calculation, Moshe Rabbeinu had not come down yet. Well, they figured they had a choice to follow God's will, and that is work through prophets. If God willed that Moshe Rabbeinu will not come down, then there'll be another prophet. There'll be another leader, like Joshua. Like Yeshua was the leader. So we cannot go against the will of God. But they had a concern, and the concern is that a human being can err. So let us choose an animal that has no knowledge, no understanding, and if God wishes to communicate through us, it will not be through the interpretive powers of that prophet that perhaps he can err. It would be direct. Of course, that's an error. And of course, for a nation that has to understand what it means, the unity and the divinity of God, that has no place whatsoever. For this reason, by the way, we know that a lot of Christians believe in the Trinity. And there's much halachic debate whether the Trinity is a form of idol worship or not.
It is.
For a Jew it is.
Yes.
But for a Gentile it's not. Because the Gentile were not warned like we were warned. Did not see the revelation of God on Mount Sinai like we saw it. And therefore, we of all nations have to understand to what degree does the unity of God exist. So for us as a nation, the Trinity, the golden calf, or any form of any mediation between us and God has no place. But for a Gentile, there are many authorities that hold that this is not considered, for a Gentile, it's not considered idol worship, because they did not have the same level of warning or awareness of the unity of God. As long as they believe in general terms monotheism, that's okay. Not everybody agrees with it, but a lot of authorities agree with that. Having said that, and this is a crucial point here, having said that, what is then so great about the fact that we're talking about a three-pronged Torah given to a three-dimensional nation on the third month? If anything, the Torah should be given. If the Torah is what it is, and that is a part of God Himself, and God is the ultimate in unity, should be symbolized through be given on the which month? The first month. The first month, absolute unity. Why in the third month? Why to a nation that is, so to speak, has divisions of three? So to explain this, there's an interesting parable. There was a king who had a child, and this child was super talented. The king invested everything in this child and taught him everything that needed to be taught. But the king wanted to see whether this child would be fitting to be a king. So what did he do? He sent him away. He sent him to a place where they weren't as cultured, where they weren't as refined as they were in the environment where this prince grew up. The king wanted to see and test him whether he still will be a prince over there. It's easy to be a prince in the palace. It's easy to be refined and cultured when you're eating refined and cultured food. But what about if you're eating that coarse corn? You know those coarse corn with got all of the orange bits and all of the brown bits and the black bits? Let's see how refined you are going to be. What about where people don't wear silks and fine linen and fine cotton and finely woven wool? What about where they wear, canvas and these type of things? How refined are you going to be? What about when people speak in a very, very vulgar fashion and eat in a very, very vulgar way and live in a very vulgar way? How will you still be a prince? The test of being a prince is not here. If he would pass the test, he would be fitting to be the heir to the king. And indeed, he went, and he was able to maintain his dignity. He was able to maintain his princely appearance and behavior. He behaved in a refined manner. When he came back, nothing was altered, and the king was very pleased. So too with us. The King of all kings wants for the world to recognize the unity of God. And God hides himself. Where do you best recognize the unity of God? In heaven, where the unity of God is prevalent and easily seen and recognizable, and there is nothing else revealed but only godliness? No. The true unity of God is where there is division. Where there exists division, and then through the maze of division, you're able to then recognize the unity of God. That is like the prince being sent away to a far-off place where the culture of the king is not clear, is not evident, is not seen, is not practiced, and you behave like a prince, like a king then. That is the objective. And so too here. How do you truly recognize the unity of God? When you're challenged. When you're challenged, that's when you recognize the true unity of God. How do you test a relationship? Not when everything is going fine, and everything is going good, and everything is lovey-dovey, and everything is going well, and there are no difficulties whatsoever. There are no traumas whatsoever. There's no financial pressures whatsoever. There are no issues whatsoever. Everything is going fine and dandy. That is not a true test of a relationship. A true test of a relationship is when there are challenges, and when there are difficulties, and you're able to overcome those challenges and difficulties. What does that do to a relationship? Strengthen the relationship. The relationship becomes greater and stronger. I always say that Judaism is not afraid of questions. Not afraid of questions. The whole Talmud is all about questions. It debates the smallest, tiniest little thing. Where do we know this from? Where do we learn this from? And looking at things from different angles and different views. Why? Tell us what the law is, and that's it. The reason why the Talmud gives us all of these questions is because when you come through the questions, you come to no doubt whatsoever. The reason why Judaism is not afraid of questions is because it's not afraid of the answer. Once you get to a conclusion through questions, you no longer have any doubts. You understand the topic at hand solidly. Nobody can move you and shake you. When we exist in this world where there is disunity, where there seems to be conflicting power, I think you need the manuka honey as well. Each spoon is $1. When you live in a world where seemingly there's conflicting powers and energies, and seemingly even bad has influence, and it seems that sometimes the bad controls more the good. And then there you find godliness, and there you find the unity of God. It's unshakable. It's unmovable. It's immovable. And your relationship with God is very strong indeed. And this is what the Torah wants to accentuate, what the Talmud wants to accentuate by telling us that the Torah was given not in the first month, it was given in the third month. Not to a nation who is singular, totally singular in mind. No, we are very different people. We think differently. You can't sell the Jewish people a boat easily. We don't take things too easily, too lightly. Not easily at all. To sell us a boat, you have to be so convincing. So too, the Almighty sends the Torah to a nation which intrinsically has division, so to speak. There is different camps. The Kohanim, they're different. They think differently. They feel differently. They serve God differently. So to the Leviim, so to the Israelim. And it was given on the third month. Because the third month that's where the true unity of God is revealed and appreciated. How so? Let's see why. There are a few ways how to be able to relate to the unity and the divinity of God. One way is like in the month of Nisan, where godliness is revealed, where a miracle happens, and what happens to the laws of nature? Totally suspended. They don't exist. And any opinion that I might have totally doesn't exist. It's dark, and what happens in the dark, I turn on the light, and automatically when I turn on the light, I don't stumble, I don't fall, I know exactly how to get to the door. But I don't really know the room. When do I really know the room? When there is a little bit of dark, and I begin to acclimatize to the darkness, and start to feel around and understand, here there's a chair, and this is the shape of the chair. It is about 10 centimeters from the table. There's about 1.5 meters distance from the wall, and I know my way around. And I feel my way around to the extent that I'm so comfortable, I know everything about this room, and I know how to get from point A to point B from my own investigation. Not because God turned on the light and shined the light on me and I no longer have any opinion. No, I do have an opinion. But after the opinion and after I've investigated on my own, I came to the rock solid conclusion that there is one God, and that one God is absolutely one, and not only singular, that there is nothing else but God. And there is rock solid. That relationship with God is rock solid. So on Pesach, what happened was, God revealed himself and took us out of Egypt, even though we may not have been worthy. He revealed himself, and everything else was totally suspended. Nothing else existed. And then came a point in time, the next month, the month where we prepare for the giving of the Torah, where we count down. The majority of the month of Iyar is a month that is associated with counting down towards the counting of the Omer, counting towards the giving of the Torah for Shavuot. And there, every day we are refining a new attribute that exists within us. We are identifying any negativity. We're taking a fine torch and we're looking very carefully to find and identify, are there any doubts within my soul? Are there any issues that I have within myself? And I'm working very toiling very hard in order to identify my weaknesses and my vulnerability. And I'm engaging in the divisions of this world. I'm engaging with the different emotions and the different thoughts that go through my thought process. But after all of that, I've reached the conclusion of the giving of the Torah, where I totally become one with God. And nature no longer is an enemy, but is an asset, where I now begin to use this world and nature as a conduit, as a catalyst to understand the unity and the divinity of God even greater than before. Whereas before, perhaps this world attracted me and lured me away from godliness, and the possibility, of course, in this world is very luring and very real, that it can lead us away from divinity, from godliness. But through engaging, through first the revelation of God, and then engaging within myself, and engaging within the different divisions and the different feelings and emotions that I have within myself, I came to a rock-solid conclusion of the unity of God. Where is the unity of God real? Where is it truly evident and felt? Where there is division. Where there is concealment of godliness, where there is a possibility to make an error, where there is a possibility for that God to be idol worship, or different forces, or different influences. And I debate these concepts within my mind and within my heart. And then I, so to speak, engage myself within them. And I ask the right questions and come to the right conclusions. There I will find godliness, divinity, and unity, but in a conclusion that is rock solid and totally immovable. Like the son of the king that was sent away, and everything that he was taught was challenged, and everything that he was taught was tested on the field, so to speak. Like a soldier. You take a soldier, you train him. But how do you know he's a true soldier? How do you know he's a brave soldier? How do you know he's a hero? When he's on the field and he knows how to practice it, he doesn't fear, he doesn't run away. He doesn't allow his emotions to get there, or his enemy, or the gruesomeness of his enemy to shake him away from what he knows to be true. So too, God took our soul. It is holy, it is pristine. It only knows godliness. It doesn't know anything else, because that is absolute truth. But it puts us in this world, in a body that desires physical and mundane things. You got to go to work, and you got to go to sleep, and you got to enjoy yourself, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And there are so many distractions in this world. And our objective is not only to not listen to the body, but ultimately turn the body over. And that the body itself recognizes godliness, not only the soul. And the body becomes a vehicle and a tool for godliness. This, ladies, is achieved on Shavuot, on Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. This is the uniqueness of Shavuot. And it occurs and it happens through the giving of the Torah. And it occurs and it happens through studying of Torah. And if we study Torah and understand Torah like we're trying to do now and in other times, it gives us the ability to come to a solid conclusion that there is only one God, and then we can then practice the mitzvot properly, with a proper and better understanding and a greater relationship with God, that the world is no longer an impediment to godliness, no longer a concealment to godliness, but rather a tool to understand the beauty of godliness, like this Menuka honey and all of the great healing properties of God instilled in this world.